Welcome to College Crossfire. I'm your host, Drew Jacob. In tonight's special hour-long edition, 6 past champions from earlier this semester will enter, but only one will leave as the one to rule them all, because tonight is the Tournament of Champions. Woo! Let's go! No commercial. Oh, let's go.
I like to shout out my boy Lamar Jackson. He's coming back for that 2021 MVP. He's better than Josh Allen. He's better than Baker Mayfield. He's not better than Mahomes. I can't.
You're a strikecaster?
The Texans scored 20 points in the second half, had less than 12 minutes of possession time. Now, I'm not a math geek, but that's certainly less than half of the second half.
Team that's being put as number 2 in the power rankings. Stephen A. Smith called them number 1 in the league. And then they go for 55 minutes, shut up by the Denver Broncos, the Dallas Cowboys. How about them boys? 30 points. They only put up some garbage time points at the end to make it look closer, but does that offend you a little bit? You upset about that?
Like, come on, you can't lose to Kansas. Fire everybody if you lose to Kansas. I think if we lose to Kansas, I'm going to the transfer portal.
I was playing the Seahawks, it was a 19-yard field goal. I had the chance to hold it. I would be Hudson Card. Say what you want about him as a quarterback, but that man can hold a football, man. That game has haunted me for years, man.
Well, not only is he the greatest Longhorn athlete of all time, he's the greatest Raven athlete of all time as well. Justin Tucker, give him his 99 rating in Madden.
Welcome to College Crossfire. I'm your host, Drew Jacob. Let's make the rounds. Champ roll call. On first base, we got the 1 seed, David. David, how you doing?
I'm feeling, I got
unpopular among the crowd.
One seed, here we go, time to go. Got the Jamal Charles Chiefs Christmas sweatshirt in season now. I actually misgot the memo. I thought we were all going to wear Christmas sweaters, but you know what? That's fine. Here we go.
True. There was a poll put in the group chat. I guess he didn't see the results. Still, the odds-on favorite regardless. Next, we've got Matt, the three seed, if I remember correctly. Matt, how you feeling?
Ready to win it all.
Enough said, absolutely. And then we got Jackson, the dark horse, the underdog. Jackson, how do we feel?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm answering all the questions in the first half, so unlike the Colts, I don't have to worry about melting down in the second.
Excellent. I love starting with a call-out. That is going to set the tone. All right, guys, enough talk. Let's talk. Texas's 6-game losing streak came to an end after their 22-17 win against Kansas State last Friday. It may not have meant anything for bowl eligibility, but it sure meant a lot to me. Texas was playing for pride this week and, as such, came out playing hard, with their defense not allowing a single point in the second half, and showing an ability to close out games that would have been really nice to see earlier in the season. But what's done is done. And I think Longhorn faithful can agree that watching the team go out swinging left the season go out on a much better note than ending on a 7-game losing streak would have. But, panelists, I want to know, what are your takeaways from Texas's inconsequential win over Kansas State? On this one, we're starting with David.
Well, you know, I hate to say this, but I think we have a quarterback issue. And I really, really hope that, you know, I don't think Arch Manning's coming, but I do think that there's somebody out there. I know Malik Murphy is still coming. There's some great hope to be had. I know Sark, his best thing is recruiting, and that's a good thing. I don't think the quarterback is on the active roster right now. Second thing, Bijan is our offense, bro. Bijan is our offense. Without Bijan, that offense looked abysmal. But what I am proud of, and really, really proud of, honestly, is that defense finally coming together. We have a new scheme with a new defensive coordinator, and I knew it was going to be a rough start. We've seen some rough starts. I was at that OU-Texas game when we blew that huge lead, and Caleb Williams became the next best thing since a slice of bread with like cheese on. I don't know, bro. But then that defense finally gelled together, and I hope that those mistakes never happen again, because if I see a 21-point lead blown by Texas in my tenure as a student here, I will be a sad boy. I will be a sad boy.
Absolutely. Great points all around. Agree that the quarterback is not on the roster. I think Texas can remain hopeful about Arch, though. I mean, they're going to pay him if he comes.
Yeah. I guess it's a new...
Right, it's a money thing. It's business. Football. Business. They're in the football business. And business is bad so far. Matt, on to you next.
Well, I'm actually going to disagree with you about the defense, because their defense is awful. If Skylar Thompson was playing that game, Texas was not going to win. Their rush defense is atrocious. You give up 223 yards to Kansas State, 143 to Deuce Vaughn, 8 games in a row, you had a 100-yard rush from another opposing team. Some of these running backs had career days against Texas. You can't let that happen if you're going to be an elite team. They got gassed by Will Howard for 60 yards. Will Howard is not a fast, athletic quarterback like Caleb Williams or a fast like Lamar Jackson. It's Will Howard, and you let him gas you for 60 yards. Like, you can't have that. Their defense is atrocious. They need to go to the portal. They need to go to recruiting. Get some run stoppers on that team. Fix your run defense, because otherwise you're going to be getting gashed every week for 200-plus yards.
Absolutely. You know, Texas fans, I imagine they would have had to get really tired of seeing pretty much every week opposing running backs having all-time, all-career games. No, it gets terrible. The defense, you know, and Sark has said they're going to take in the max number of transfer players. I think it'd probably be good to allocate a lot of that to the D. And Jackson, I'm going to end this question on you.
So ye of little faith. I'm going to actually end this question on a positive note. I know Texas doesn't give helmet stickers, but if we did, I think all of them need to go to Roschon Johnson. I believe he had the second best running back performance this year, probably behind Bijan's like 200-yard, 3-touchdown day against TCU. But Roschon Johnson had almost 200 yards from scrimmage yesterday, and he played so well, and it's so good to see that one player finally stepped up in the last game of the season. Roschon Johnson will have a great opportunity to lead a Texas team, not necessarily in carries, but in the locker room. This team next year will be so young, raw, and talented. I feel like Roschon Johnson will be the type of senior leader we need next year to be able to help Texas rebuild on kind of a really poor culture season this year.
Absolutely, I can agree with that too. I've been saying ever since he switched from quarterback to running back that if they gave out the Heisman for likability and character, Roschon would be winning it.
Easily.
That being said, David's going to win this round with the 3, Matt's going to be getting the 2, and Jackson, the 1. Yeah. Hold on, everybody. Great news, y'all. It's time to get jiggy with it. Yeah. Because Lincoln Riley's gone.
Yeah!
For over the first time in a quarter century, the Oklahoma Sooners were the victims of the dreaded Coach Poach. Regarding Riley, everyone, can I get a beat? He whistled for a cab, and when it came near, USC looked fresh, left OU in the rear. If anything, we could say that this case was rare, but Lincoln said, OU sucks, yo homes to Bel Air! Ooh. That's right, USC's football program is under new management in the form of the Fresh Prince, Lincoln Riley. We'll get back to OU later, trust me. But for now, I want to know, do you think Riley is the man to bring the Trojans back to prominence? And if so, how long do you think the turnaround will take? And on this one, we're starting with Matt.
Well, let's talk about the most hated man in Norman, Oklahoma right now. Lincoln Riley. A smart move on his end. You got a rumored to be $100 million contract. Good for him, all these perks. You're living in L.A., not Norman. But let's talk about expectations for USC. Riley is a good coach, and USC historically could recruit some pretty good players. You put those two together, USC sounds like they're going to be a competent football program again. And they're in the Pac-12, the weakest Power 5 conference. That conference is always a mess every single year. So you have Riley over there. And then you have the exodus from OU. The guys going to the portal, all the guys decommitted from OU. Most of them are probably going to USC. So USC could be really good really quickly. And I could see them winning 10, 11 games every year. That's part of the reason why Riley left, because you're not going to be winning 10 games every year in Saban's division. Saban's not going to let that happen. But in the Pac-12, you'll win 10, 11 a year. You'll be a college football playoff contender, win a couple Pac-12 titles. You'll have the occasional loss to, like, unranked Stanford. But they're still going to be a good team. I'd say college football playoff contender in a few years.
Absolutely. You know, the only other contender they're going to have to deal with in the Pac-12 typically is going to be Oregon, and Oregon has benefited more than anybody from USC being down. So that looks like it's going to come to an end. Jackson, on to you next.
So yeah, go West, young man. Lincoln Riley, he takes a phenomenal opportunity to go to USC and build a program that's really like no other in college football. However, I don't know if he's going to get enough time to be able to build the program to succeed. Of course, you're going to get OU commits and decommits now going to, and new recruits obviously going to USC. But USC, just like Texas, has a massive booster. Their boosters are very hands-on with the program. He will be put on, because of the nature of this move, nationally and within USC, the boosters will be putting him under a microscope and will be expecting him to succeed and succeed quickly. So Lincoln Riley, the pressure's on. I think that there's obviously no higher ceiling than a national title you can get with USC, but
he's going to have to start producing and producing quick.
Absolutely. If USC fans and boosters alike, I assume, feel like they've gotten a sort of get-out-of-jail-free card with this, and as great as that is, the pressure's going to be magnified if they start off slow, even say next year. So I can agree with that. David, on to you next.
Well, this is a genius move. Genius move by Lincoln Riley, and not just because we don't have to worry about him anymore here in the lovely state of Texas, but because he's getting a private jet, boys. He gets a free private jet to go fly his family around. Like, for all sides on his end, it was the right call to leave Norman, Oklahoma. But talk about expectations. I say Big 12 champion, Pac-12 championship in the first year he gets there. There's no competition in there. Colorado's been buns forever. Oregon is like somewhat decent. UCLA, they've been kicking USC's butt every single game I watch. But I think that they can finally turn that corner, especially they have a future. Malachi Nelson just is going to commit to USC now. He's the 3rd highest recruit in 2023, and gosh darn, I think that USC team is going to be very nice by then. And who knows, Caleb Williams could go there. Hasselwood's been rumored to be going to USC, and Mims is contemplating his future with OU. So there's a lot to be had there, and I think Lincoln Riley's going to have the people there. But I will say, I think it is similar to like the Scott Frost Nebraska situation. I think he will actually have enough time to turn around the program. I do think that he's going to be like seen as the savior by USC, similar to how Scott Frost was seen as a savior for Nebraska. But I think, he's going to need a little bit of time, and I think he'll get that time, just like they're giving Frost his time.
I think it's fair. USC gave Clay Helton that time. I mean, that's
they
worth remembering.
give Lincoln Riley like 10 years before he needs to win it.
Right, absolutely. And Lincoln Riley, I mean, he's won the Big 12 4 out of his 5 years, and he's basically getting OU's recruiting class in a weaker conference. So I think expectations should be high. All that said, Matt, you're getting the 3 on this one. David, the 2, and Jackson, the 1. Texas men's basketball hasn't had all that much to report on as of late. Since their understandable loss to highly ranked Gonzaga, they've spent the majority of their time feasting on mid-majors. Despite the dominance shown, isn't the results expected of a serviceable Power 6 team, That said, though, something does seem a bit different this year. Things just look like they're flowing well. Team culture seems to be building well, and the squad seems like they're continuing to gel better. With most of their big games yet to be played, though, how would you judge Chris Beard on his just general overall management of the team, including the intangibles that take a trained eye to notice? And on this one, we're going to start with Jackson.
So I think Chris Beard is really cultivating this new basketball team and the support around it really well. I mean, if you look at how successful the basketball game at Greg Gym was, that gym was loud, it was packed, and it was rocking. And you could see how pumped the players were to be playing in that type of environment. I feel like over the season long, I need to see some more improvement. I think players, it's a small nitpick, but they're making one too many passes and brushing off open looks to try to force something else. And I think that comes with players being unselfish, which isn't a bad thing, but I think with Big 12 coming into play, this team is going to round and form really well and produce so much better than what they showed at Gonzaga.
Absolutely. Gonzaga game, early season, great team, not a good recipe for a team like Texas, but a lot of reason to be hopeful moving forward. David, on to you next.
There ain't a man that bleeds burnt orange more than Chris Beard. That man loves Texas, and I am so glad that he is leading this program, especially after a disappointing football season. It is nice for UT people to look up to something exciting for the next couple of months. I very much think that Chris Beard is the guy for this program. He left his successful program over in another Texas school just to come here. And when I went to the game over with Sam Houston State, I believe it was, their coach on the sideline for Sam Houston State was going crazy, yelling, going crazy. Chris Beard did not sit there and let that coach get all the credit and try to rally his team. Chris Beard stood up and got the crowd, all these students yelling. I haven't seen students yell like that in years for a basketball game. Chris Beard wants us to win. He wants the culture here. He's got Carr in there. He's rotating his people in. He wants to win, and so does Texas, and I think that'll take us far. Gonzaga, we needed that humbling really early on. We're going to gel together, and it's going to be nice.
I think we can just tell from the hype in your answer how hyped the student body is about this team right now, and that's great. You need that. Matt, on to you.
Chris Beard is awesome, both on and off the court in terms of culture. Off the court, getting the students involved, that was his big mission. I think it's really awesome. He had the party at the Tower, the game at Greg. He's really trying to get involved, get to know the students, get their involvement. You didn't see Shaka doing that his whole time there. That's why we never had anybody at the games. But then you look at on the court, it's a good team. You brought in this whole team of transfers. Nobody really played together. But for him to get that chemistry going, for him to get everybody to understand his system, he's building a winning culture. Chris Beard is a winner. He knows how to win games. He knows how to get the fans riled up. Chris Beard is the right guy for Texas. He's the best hire probably that TC has made so far. And Beard's he's a great dude. He seems like he really wants to really help the program and help the students really build relationships with them, and he's just a winner.
You're right, just all around he's a winner, and all around it seems like this program is doing well. It's getting healthy. It should be winning again soon. So great answers all around. But David, once again, you're getting the 3. A rare first-round sweep for David. Jackson, you're going to be getting the 2, and Matt, the 1. We've got to cut to our first commercial break, but when we come back, it'll be these guys once again for the second round of the Tournament of Champions. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire. Before we get started, let's take a look at the scoreboard. Leading the show, we've got David in first place with 8 points.
All right.
And the crowd is loving it. Coming in second, we've got Matt with 6. And bringing up the rear with Jackson, he has got 4. Let's jump right back into it. As we enter Week 13 of the National Football League play, the playoff picture is, well, a mess in the AFC. There's no clear frontrunner, as the Ravens haven't created the separation one may have expected. The Patriots seem to have found their TB 2.0 in Mac Jones, and as my producer Marcus has stressed to me, Tennessee lost to the Texans, and that, as he would know as a Texans fan, is bad. Meanwhile, there's a dogpile in the middle with the 7-seed Chargers and the 13th place Dolphins separated by only a game and a half. So, panelists, what about the Texans? So, panelists, it's your job to rummage through the clutter and let us know which team will be left standing in the AFC when it's all said and it's all done. On this one, we're starting with David.
Well, the audience is going to hate me even more.
Oh, boy.
Kansas City Chiefs, baby!
Surprise,
Kansas City Chiefs, easy
surprise.
front runners. I don't want to hear it.
Easy.
Y'all were doubting us very early. Very early on, y'all were doubting us.
It's so simple. But I have some points with this, I have some points with this, I have some points with this. There's a lot of mental blocks coming into the offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Nice running back.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of 25, but I like this 25 Jamal. Anyway, there are a lot of mental errors coming into the offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs. We had the tragic situation with Brett Reed and his car accident. We had the Patrick Mahomes getting married and having a child in the offseason. And we have Jackson Mahomes on the sideline dancing on Sean Taylor's number. So there's a lot of mental blocks that happen. A lot of that has gotten sorted out in the sense. You have the Kansas City Chiefs have reached out to Brett, the family that was unfortunately injured in the car accident for Brett Reed's family, and they're offering to pay and make sure that that girl can have a normal life. And that is a really awesome class move by the Chiefs, and I appreciate that. Jackson Mahomes is now banned from Chiefs games, according to the father. So that's a good sign. No disrespect for him. And it looks like Mahomes is starting to finally get back and comfortable. But what's most important and surprising for us Chiefs fans, or me only Chiefs fan, is the defense has been one of the best defenses in the last 4 weeks. They're one of the top 5 defenses in the National Football League. All these rookies have started to step up. Nick Bolton is tied for 3rd with tackles for losses in the NFL after not starting for 3 weeks, because Spags has his favorites, but we don't talk about that. And that defense has some of the best graded corners according to PFF. So all of a sudden the Chiefs is starting to figure it out. They have the experience to win when they need to. So I feel like they're going to clutch it out at the end. Also, we played the Bills, Ravens, and Titans, who are all really good at the beginning of the season. So I don't know. Those are the only losses. We lose to good teams, unlike the Ravens, who lost to the Dolphins.
This is true. So I think you got dangerously close to going a little off the rails for a second there.
I did.
But the points were really solid. And I think people don't bring up strength of schedule enough. I mean, surprise, surprise, you play playoff contenders, you lose some of them. And generally, the Chiefs have looked better over the last few weeks. Everyone gave you a hard time, but it's a very defensible answer. Good points. Matt, on to you next.
No, I appreciate your long answer. Not really a whole lot of football in there, a lot of excuses. But I'm going to go with the team that everybody in this room has hated for so long. Give me the New England Patriots. I know, you can boo me all you want, but it looks like Bill Belichick found his next franchise quarterback.
Let him know about it.
Mac Jones has really developed the last few weeks. He started off a little rough, little bad turnovers, but they've been on a big win streak. They've been looking really good on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. And Belichick is just that coach, like, he knows how to make average players good. He took Nelson Aguilar, and we all remember the videos and the memes of Aguilar, and made him a competent wide receiver over there. Kendrick Bourne, you've never heard of him up until this year. Good receiver. Jacoby Myers, good receiver this year. And then the running back room. You never have a defined running back in New England, but yet every week one of them's going on for over 102 touchdowns. The Patriots are just the most complete team right now. They're the best. They have the best coach of all time. Give me the Patriots in the AFC.
You know, that's a funny thing about the Patriots. I feel like they're the only organization where running back by committee consistently does work. And I think a lot of us were kind of falling into the mental idea that just like they were just going to be bad. Belichick wasn't going to be able to rebound. Seems like we've all already been proven wrong. Solid pick. Jackson, on to you next.
All right, so I'm going to be boring as well. I'm going to go with the team that's #1 in the AFC right now. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. Dolphins. You can look at the loss that the win they had on Sunday. It was a very ugly win, but this is not the college football playoff. It does not matter how ugly you look. All that matters if you get the win or the loss, and they got the win. The Ravens are a top 5 team in rushing right now. They're dominating the rushing attack on both sides of the ball. They have nobody. Lamar Jackson is their RB1 in Baltimore right now, and their defense is one of 2 teams in the NFL besides the Bucs to allow less than 1,000 yards rushing. And this has created so many beautiful opportunities to control the time of possession. It's hard to lose a football game when you're constantly on the field. The Ravens are #1 in the NFL in time of possession, and their schedule, this is a very winnable AFC North team, and it's not a very strong division once you dig a little deeper. I'm going to stay with the Ravens, and I think they have a really good shot if they get a little bit healthier, a little bit better in pass coverage to really win a Super Bowl.
Whoa, bold take, went above and beyond the call. But again, I'm a real sucker for people just straight up using like a weak schedule as a point for why someone you can expect them to make the playoffs or do well. Solid answer all around. That being said, Matt is getting the 3 on this one. Jackson, you'll be getting the 2, and David, the 1.
I knew it was the unpopular.
Going into conference championship week, almost nobody's spot in the college football playoff is completely safe. Save for Georgia, of course. Unless they lose in a Georgia Tech versus Cumberland College scenario, they should be safe. That said, just making it to the dance isn't going to be necessarily enough for Georgia. You know, a fan base who has been to the dance recently but hasn't won best moves of the ball since the 80s. As for the rest, each of the teams fighting for the remaining 3 playoff spots find themselves in a put-up or shut-up situation this weekend, where it's unlikely any of their playoff hopes could survive a loss. And the stakes are high, folks. Some of these schools have been there before, but most of the contenders really haven't. And I find myself thinking that all of these programs are on the verge of a program-defining moment, one way or the other. In a particularly volatile time for college football, which program, player, or coach has the most to gain or the most to lose this upcoming weekend and in the playoffs beyond? Matt, we're starting with you on this one.
I think the obvious answer has to be Cincinnati, Group of 5 team, ranked #4 in the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, which I hope they do, everybody here hopes they do, but just knowing the way the committee goes, there's a good chance they get screwed out of it, just like other teams have had in the past. But Cincinnati, if they make the playoffs, they need to win the playoffs. Or if they lose, you can't get blown out by 50 points. Make it at least competitive, because otherwise you're going to prove all the doubters right. That, oh, they're group of 5. They don't deserve to be there. They can't do this. Like, no more G5 teams anymore. But they do have the most to lose, not just for the program itself, but you have to look at their coaching staff too. Luke Fickell has won ACC Coach of the Year 3 of the 5 years that he's been coach over there. And they've been undefeated in the regular season the past 2 years. And he's a big-name coaching candidate. You have big-name openings right there. Notre Dame's open, OU's open, and he's a big name rumored to be interested. Like, schools are interested in him. If he goes into the playoffs with Cincinnati and they get absolutely demolished, those schools might take another look, a different way. So he could be potentially, if they lose, he would be losing one, a job at a giant Power 5 program, or two, he could still get a job, but he would not be getting the same money he would be getting. So I think Cincinnati and Luke Fickell have the most to lose in the college football playoffs.
You have to wonder, too, if he can win, like, somehow, if he doesn't win a title this year, would he even leave? They'll be in basically a power conference pretty soon anyway. Yeah, this is a good point, though. Cincinnati, if they were to get blown out in the semifinal, I feel like every time a G5 team, like next time UCF goes undefeated, there's going to be a lot of, but what about, remember Cincinnati? That's going to come up a lot. So I would say you could argue Cincinnati and all of the G5. Jackson, on to you next.
So I'm going to drop down a few ranks. I'm going to go with the program that's already had a program-defining moment in the past week, and that is going to be the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, going to the playoffs, it's a 100-meter dash. Losing Brian Kelly just sets you back another, 20 to 40 meters. So they're already playing from behind. Now, Notre Dame has no named head coach or interim coach right now, although their defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, has very recently become a top candidate to replace him. But this is a problem for Notre Dame. They don't know what they have going into this bowl game and going into next season. Recruiting season, if they don't find a coach quickly, they're going to begin losing a lot of recruits very quickly. It is recruiting season, commitment season. So as well as that, they also don't have a game to play this weekend. Not being in a conference is probably the biggest kicker that they have going against them this weekend. They, with everyone else getting an opportunity, Oklahoma State, I'd say even Baylor, who has a chance to have 2 top 10 wins and to beat the team that beat them earlier in the year, I think Baylor even has a better chance to make the playoff than Notre Dame, even though they have 2 losses. Notre Dame is in a very perilous situation, and I think it's just going to have to depend on how the rest of the field shakes out.
That's a good point. I see where you're coming from. I think you could also argue Notre Dame has nothing to lose at this point. They don't have a clear path anymore, and they don't have a coach. They've sort of lost everything. But I see where you're coming from. Solid points all around. David, on to you next.
I'm actually going to go with a surprising answer, I feel like, in this question. I think Kirby Smart has the most to lose right now. Kirby Smart arguably has one of the best teams in college football, particularly the defense. That defense is supposedly one of the best defenses to ever grace the sport of college football during a year where all the other teams are bad. So this seems like Georgia, you have to win. This is easy. You can do it. Make Georgia sports look good. You just had the World Series win. I mean, forget Falcons. Kirby Smart has that beautiful choke in the college football championship before. I think he gets another one. I think Kirby Smart has a lot to lose here, and unfortunately, I think Georgia fans will be mad at him. Will it be enough for him to get fired? No, probably not. He's just going to be fine, but he's going to have a lot of morale boost knocked down, and I feel like Georgia fans are just going to be sick and tired of losing, and I think that that's going to happen again. It's
going to be like before Clemson ever won a championship. Clemsoning was a term. Dabo was known as a choker. I can't imagine. Georgia's already a team kind of known for that. It's only going to get worse.
The state in general.
It's going to start feeling like it can never win. And for that, David, I completely agree, and I think you have the best points to back it up. So you're going to get the 3 on that one, Jackson the 2, and Matt the 1. As such, David is going to be moving on to the finals, everybody. He's going to take a little break right now, but you will see him back for rapid fire in his effort to win it all. We've got to go to commercial break once again, but when we come back, we're going to have a new set of 3 panelists fighting for the 2nd spot in the finals. You won't want to miss it.
I love you, Jordan.
Welcome back to College Crossfire.
Yeah.
We've now got our second batch of champions. On first base, we've got Adam. Adam, how you doing?
Excited to be back. I'm ready. I think I won this thing in the spring, so I'm ready to defend my championship.
Excellent, Adam. Good to hear it on. Adam, overall 2 seed, I believe, highest seed in this heat. On second base, we've got Evan. Evan.
Yeah, thank you.
Evan, your crowd
Got
seems,
got
you
got a
seem to
good
be
crowd.
champion to them already.
Yeah, that's all that matters in my heart, you know, and also what matters that we beat David. So even if it's not me, better be one of these two.
I don't know when he became the supervillain of Crossfire, but I'm liking it. I'm liking the storylines. And on third base, we've got Jordan. Jordan, how you feeling?
Love you too.
Crowd also loves Jordan.
Everyone, woo! Yeah, I'm coming in as a 6th seed, feeling like an underdog. I'm feeling a Cinderella story, you know. I lost Adam in the spring semester or last year, so I'm hoping that I can beat him this time. I found this hat on the floor. I'm assuming that's from the previous block, but I'm just
It was.
rolling.
We were celebrating the Oklahoma thing. It was great. It was lovely. But now it's time to focus on this block, this batch of champions. Let's get right into it. Turning back to Texas football, we look forward to the offseason. After a year marred by improbable collapses, questionable coaching, and constant questions about the state of the locker room, this will be an important time for the program. It's crucial to their chances for the future success of Texas football that they take this offseason to correctly diagnose what went wrong and what they need to do about it. Get right and watch the program soar, or get it wrong and find out what rock bottom really looks like. Which way, Texas? To do this, they might need a little help. So, panelists, I want you all to let Sark know, what is the most important issue that needs to be addressed in this offseason, and how should they go about it? On this one, we're starting with Adam.
Yeah, I think one thing you have to look with Sarkisian, you look at his coaching staff. This coaching staff is coaching with Tom Herman's players. They have one player that they recruited, one player, and it was Xavier Worthy, who set a single-season freshman record for touchdowns by a Texas receiver. So I would trust them to go out, recruit, get the players they need. And with the transfer portal, players not having to sit out a year anymore when they transfer for the first time, there's a big opportunity there for Texas to go get players. Sarkisian said he thought there could be up to 33 new players on the roster this year. So I think the number one need for Texas, they need to go get a graduate transfer quarterback. Casey Thompson, Hudson Card, they were both very average this year. Casey Thompson, he was battling that thumb injury down the stretch. Hudson Card looked like a deer in headlight. I don't think he ever recovered from that Arkansas game. Texas needs some experience. They have Bijan Robinson coming back. They have Xavier Worthy coming back. They have skill, position, talent. I think if they can get a quarterback, maybe Dylan Gabriel, that's the rumor that's been going around. The UCF quarterback threw for 3,000 yards the past 2 seasons before dealing with injuries this year. His cousin's on the volleyball team. We'll see. That could be a rumor swirling, but I think Texas needs that experience at quarterback if they want to be a winner next year.
I like mentioning the family connection he has at UT. That's the kind of insight you're not going to get at the national stations. Overall, very solid point. I think that at this point, you can't really trust that either QB on the roster is at all like an above average or even average Power 5 quarterback. You've got to look elsewhere. Evan, on to you next.
You know, I think this is a really volatile time for Sark, and really he needs to prove himself right now. I've been defending him throughout the year, and I think a lot of Texas fans have as well, because we're saying he's here for the SEC, he's here for recruiting. Well, now it's probably the most important week ever in college football recruiting that just happened, with Lincoln Riley going to USC, Brian Kelly moving on. There's going to be a lot of transfers. There's going to be a lot of recruits that are mulling about. Sarkisian needs to step on it, and he needs to get all gas, no brakes with all these recruits right now. It's important that we take this like top 10 recruiting class we have, make it a top 5 one. Get Texas into the recruiting portal, and also, like you said, the transfer portal. I like that you mentioned Gabriel. Also, Haener from Fresno State, one of the best quarterbacks in college football, just entered the portal. He should be the #1 guy on Texas's list right now. I think any position, really besides running back, is a big need for Texas. The defense, I know we talked about it on the last block, was abysmal this year, especially the run defense. A lot of the D linemen are coming back. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's experience, but they're not great. So we'll see. But Texas really needs to take this time to really put pressure in the front four and use that pressure to gain pressure on the quarterback as well, because the two weaknesses that they had were not being able to get to the quarterback at all and not being able to stop the run with SEC or the Big 12 running backs. So it's an important time for Sark right now.
Absolutely. You know, you think back all the way to the opener, the Louisiana game. I recall thinking, like, Texas's O-line and D-line did not dominate G5 Louisiana the way you figured they should have. No. That was an omen for the rest of the season, especially when they go to the ACC. They will get destroyed if they don't improve there. And Jordan, we're going to round out this question with you.
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm not chanting fire Sark like I was. I may or may not have been at the end of the Kansas game. I cooled down a bit on that. But I think that one thing that Texas needs now, more than any recruit, more than any player, a quarterback would be nice, but I think that that what they need is a strong sense of leadership, a strong sense of commitment. Steve Sarkisian and his coaching staff seem to kind of lose a bit of power and a bit of control over the players in that locker room. And the players aren't all blameless either. There's sometimes that they looked like they were more concerned about, putting up stats to go to the NFL draft than they were about winning and creating a good team environment. I think that a player or a coach, preferably Steve Sarkisian, needs to step up and be that guy to get the team committed, get the team united. I think that there's a difference between a team and a talented group of players, and that's that trust and that dedication. I think that's what Texas was lacking this past season, and I think that's what they need to get this offseason.
Absolutely. I'm tired of hearing these rumors about just lack of cohesion among the locker room. If he doesn't fix that, then I see no reason to think things are going to improve. So for that, Jordan, you're going to get the 3 on this one, Adam the 2, and Evan the 1.
What?
What? Well, I said we'd get back to Oklahoma, and I'm no liar. Much like Lincoln Riley was no liar when he told reporters that he would, quote, not be the next coach at LSU. Well played, Lincoln. When it rains, it pours, though, because the news of Lincoln's departure came after a rare Oklahoma loss in the Bedlam game and preceded the decommitments of, by my count, 8 blue-chip recruits from their 2022 and 2023 recruiting classes. And this all comes at a time where winning was already set to get harder due to their impending move to the SEC. It may not be a great time to be a Texas fan, but it's a lovely time to be a playa-hater. Word up to Smokey Johnson. Woo. With things looking incredibly uncertain for the almost always stable Sooners, what do they do now? Open-ended question because I don't think there's an obvious solution. Evan, starting with you.
Probably cry.
Right, cry.
I think right now, if you live in Norman, Oklahoma, you already got a lot of problems going on with you, and this new coaching situation's another one of them. There's a lot that can be done at Oklahoma. I'm not sure how much of all the people are saying what they can do will happen. I know a lot of people are saying Cliff Kingsbury's coming, Fickle from Cincinnati's coming. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see why they would go to Oklahoma. And I think what's going to end up happening is that Stoops will come in, coach this last bowl game, and then they'll be kind of out of it for most of the big head coaches. I doubt a team like Notre Dame will get beaten out by Oklahoma for a head coach. I think they're going to have to start new, basically. Get someone that's like a coordinator at another big school, another Power 5 school, and just start rebuilding this program in the SEC. I think a lot of their recruits are gone and current players are gone. Caleb Williams might even be gone. Who knows what will happen with him. And if he is gone, then they are lacking talent on that roster. That is going to be a bad team, as much as Texas fans can't really talk about bad teams right now. But I think especially if Mims, like their other wide receivers, are going, they'll be out of offensive talent. The defense might still be okay, but compared to other SEC teams, will be bad. So I think it's time that Oklahoma fans need to say, we need to take 2-3 years to let a new coach come in, become comfortable, get a recruiting class that probably won't be USC's recruiting class, but be stable with comfortable players they know, and just start to build a program in the SEC as an SEC school and forget about the tragic year that happened for them.
It's funny. My initial reaction to you mentioning that they probably wouldn't be able to beat out Notre Dame for a head coach, my initial reaction was that Oklahoma should be above them in the pecking order. But in general, seeing all the decommitments that have come in the last 2 days, it kind of makes it clear that Lincoln Riley unto himself that name might have held more weight than OU currently does. And I think that's really, they're about to find out what their brand's worth, and I'm very interested to see. Jordan, on to you next.
I'm so glad you brought up Silky Johnson and player haters ball. It's a quote Ice-T from the start of that classic Dave Chappelle sketch. You're born a hater. Hating's almost like an art form to me. I wake up real early so I could have extra time to be a hater, and so it just puts a smile on my face to see OU's downfall happen like this.
Get it out.
Yeah. Lincoln Riley's departure doesn't just mean they lost their mastermind coach. It means that they lost a lot of commitments, a lot of players, as we've talked about in the past few days. And I think that what OU needs to do is to get a high-profile coach to fill in that slot. That's what USC and LSU just did. That's what Texas did last year. Because I think that that's the best way to get the players, the recruits, the fans, and even the boosters back on board with the program. Because if you go into the SEC with no recognizable names or faces, you will get eaten alive and buried. They probably will anyway, because the SEC is just at a different competition level. But I think that, look, there was a rumor earlier this week that Cliff Kingsbury was looking at the Oklahoma Sooners position. I doubt that's going to happen. He's going to leave his mansion in Arizona for Oklahoma, for Norman, Oklahoma. Come on. But that is exactly the kind of name that I think OU has to go after if they want to be successful in the SEC to come.
I cannot wrap my head around living in a world where Cliff Kingsbury might be too good for the Oklahoma job. That feels insane. But I agree. Oklahoma is in legit danger of going into a tailspin right now. And if they don't make a slam dunk hire, we're going to wonder what's going to happen to them. So I agree with that. This coaching hire is huge. They need to make a splash. Adam, on to you next.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably not going to be a popular opinion. I feel like this is one of those things where it's the rumor their demise is greatly exaggerated. I mean, I think this Oklahoma team, they have three good options. They have Brent Venables, the Clemson defensive coordinator, who was at Oklahoma for 12 years. You have Shane Beamer, who was at Oklahoma for 3 years, and now he's at South Carolina. He's got them bowl eligible for the first time since 2018. And you got Mark Stoops, who's done a good job at Kentucky, and you kind of the family connection tie in there. So Oklahoma has 3 guys. Brent Venables can bring the defense that Oklahoma's going to need in the SEC. And then Beamer and Stoops at South Carolina and Kentucky had the SEC experience, and they proved that they can win with teams that don't have as elite football programs historically. So, yeah, 8 decommitments is a big, big loss for Oklahoma. But I think you see it more these days where it makes sense. The players are committing more to the coaches, the relationships they're fostering. So when that coach leaves, they're more prone to decommit. But with the transfer portal and with this team being a national contender over the next couple of years, they have to get that head coaching hire right. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up with. But they hire someone, especially with Oklahoma ties. I think this Sooners, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be one step back, but I don't think we're going to see a tailspin anytime soon.
Man. Well, Adam, I got to say, I really hope you're wrong. That would be great.
I do too.
But for the bravery of coming into this room right now and saying OU is going to be fine, and for your defense of it, I am giving you the 3 on this one. Jordan, you're getting the 2, and Evan, you'll be getting the 1. I know, I didn't like the answer either. It was just good. While riding the high from their surprising win against Stanford, Texas women's basketball got brought back down to earth with a hard-fought loss against Tennessee. Since then, they've unleashed their wrath on a hapless CSU Northridge team, and they had a game tonight that I'm almost certain they won. That being said, we don't have many significant data points on the team. I mean, they played 2 quality opponents, and they went 500 in those games. With out-of-conference tests coming up, though, against Texas A&M and Arizona, how do you think the Longhorns will fare through the rest of their out-of-conference schedule, and, if you'd like, beyond? And on this one, we're starting with Jordan.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty reasonable to have a high level of confidence going into this stretch of the schedule. I certainly do, especially after the confidence level I had at the start of the season. Texas has started out really hot. They're 4-1, or probably 5-1 by the end of tonight.
That's right.
They beat a really quality Stanford team. Obviously, Stanford is one of the best teams in the country, and their loss against Tennessee. Tennessee's also a quality team, and they went right down to the wire. They went right into overtime. I'm very excited to see this next matchup against Texas A&M. Those are 2 good teams fighting it out. Rivalry game, obviously. And as for conference play in the Big 12, other than Baylor, who obviously will be a huge, tough test, they're one of the best teams in the nation, there's no one that really scares me besides maybe Iowa State, who's also had a hot start to the season. But, yeah, I think that Texas can do pretty well in the Big 12, and I think that if girls like Rory Harmon, Audrey Warren, Aaliyah Mathura keep playing at the level they are now, I think that it's reasonable to expect a high level of confidence.
Absolutely. Like you said, the Stanford win is obviously very impressive. That Tennessee loss is nothing to really hang your head too low about. Very close game right up until the end. Adam, on to you.
Yeah, this Texas team has a fantastic mix of experience and some new blood. So you look at the experienced Lauren Ebo and Joanne Allen Taylor. They've been having a really great start to the year. And then you look at the new blood. Aaliyah Mathura, she has the experience. She's a junior transfer from Mississippi State, but obviously new to the Texas roster. And she just dropped 27 on Tennessee. And then Rory Harmon too. She's had double digits in 3 out of her first 5 games before tonight's game against Jackson State. So to have that freshman too coming in, and so that new blood is fused really well. I think this Texas team, by beating defending national champion Stanford, by taking a top-notch Tennessee team to overtime, I think this team is set up nicely to at least split the games. They got a neutral site against Arizona, and then that road trip to A&M. I think they'll obviously run Princeton, Alcorn State, and Idaho. I think they'll run them off the court, the other 3 non-conference games. So I think you would expect at bare minimum. I think that this Texas team can go 4-1 over the remaining non-conference games. And then, like Jordan said, I think they'll be a threat in the Big 12. Vic Schaefer, he's a very experienced coach. He took Mississippi State to higher heights than they probably ever imagined they would. And this Texas roster has proved that it has a good mix of youth and experience, and I think it's going to pay off when they get around to conference play.
I always like a solid, firm answer, so I appreciate giving 4-1 at worst. And I agree with that take, too. Frankly, it is exactly what should be expected. Evan, on to you next.
As much as I'm participating in the Tournament of Champions, I say a lot of stuff on here that just doesn't end up working out for me, especially regarding Texas. The one thing I did say at the start of the year, this Texas women's team will be a lot better than the 25th best team in the nation. It'll probably be a top 8 team in the nation. And I think I still stand by that take. like you said, we only had 2 real opponents so far, but the Stanford game looked really good, and the Tennessee game looked good up until the last, minute of the game, a 4-point game. The team looked great during that time. Rory Harmon is a certified stud. She's great. And I think there's a few problems that they have to address in these next 5, I guess 5 now because of Jackson State games and out of conference. Rebounding is a bit of a problem. It's a team that's tall, but they kind of are not aggressive on the boards. They don't go for offensive boards. They give up a lot of offensive boards. And the shooting percentage is a little low for a top 15 team in the nation. And right now you kind of have to get better at that. But what is important is that though the shooting percentage is down, especially against Stanford, they shot over 50% from 3, which is just always important in college basketball. 3-point shot is where you live and die. And if a team can shoot 45% from 3, they are going to be a top 10 team in the nation. And as well as that, they are great on the turnover margin. They always are leading in steals, and they have, I'm pretty sure, almost every game up at least 10 turnovers on their opponent. So if they can keep that going, that'll really be great for momentum swings. Turnovers lead to threes. Threes lead to wins. They're going to win. I'm saying, you said 4-1. I'm going to say they go for a clean sweep, even over Arizona.
All right. We will hold you to that on an episode next semester.
Yeah, good point.
Overall, yeah, most detailed answer. And, a lot of it kind of comes back to this idea that we were talking about on the show weeks ago before the season really got started. And it's that when you lose someone like Charlie Collier, you're going to need to be a well-coached team, well-coached ensemble team. And that's what they look like right now because they're a team that does pretty much everything right. Evan, you're getting the 3 on this one. That being said, you two, peek behind the curtain. I keep mini tallies. You two tied for those, so you guys are both getting 2.
Ah, nice.
Going to go to another commercial break, but when we come back, we got 2 more questions for this batch before we declare who gets the 2nd spot in the finals. You won't want to miss it.
Yeah.
NFC.
Welcome back to College Crossfire Tournament of Champions Edition. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. We got a tie for first place right now as Adam and Jordan both have 7 points. Evan coming in close with 5. Let's get right back to it. We spoke earlier about the volatile nature of the playoff hunt in the AFC, but the NFC isn't looking that much clearer. At the top of the conference, you've just got too many mouths to feed, with Arizona, Green Bay, Tampa Bay, and Dallas all looking like legitimate contenders up to this point. That's right, Dallas. And the Rams started off hot, but fun fact, they literally have not won a game since the last time we talked about them on the show. Crossfire curse strikes again. And from there, it just becomes a mess with a bunch of 5 or 6 win teams that all have some really strong attributes that could earn them a playoff spot, but also some gaping holes that could cause them to go winless from here on out, like the Rams. Panelists, you got the same task as tonight's other heat. But this time, I want to hear about who's going to be left standing tall in the NFC. And this time we're starting with Adam.
I think I said about the Rams, I think I said that Von Miller wouldn't fix a 3-possession deficit against the Cardinals last time. And I'm standing by that. I think the Cardinals are the favorites in the NFC right now. This is a banged-up Cardinals team, too. They've got Colt McCoy playing at quarterback the past 3 games. Haven't had DeAndre Hopkins. Chase Edmonds is on the IR. This team has still gone 2-1 in the past 3 games. They had a weird off game against the Panthers where they got blown out. Besides that, their only other loss was a tight one against the Packers, where the Packers won that one late on by 3. So I think this Cardinals team is deep offensively. They just got Zach Ertz in a trade midseason as well. So you look at the offensive weapons, the Christian Kirks, Hopkins when he's back healthy, A.J. Green. Then you got Rondale Moore, talented rookie out Purdue. Now you got Zach Ertz. You got James Conner. Chase Edmonds is coming back. And you got Kyler Murray at it. I mean, this is a deep Cardinals team offensively, and then you got guys on defense like Marcus Golden and Chandler Jones who have 10 and 8 sacks respectively, and then Budda Baker on the back end. So this is a deep Cardinals team. And I think with that offensive talent, and when they get guys back healthy, I think they're going to peak at the right time and be a threat in the NFC playoffs.
You know, Colt McCoy, he may be the GOAT backup, but he just is now replacing Kyler Murray's production. And the fact that they're still winning, that does say a lot. It's funny, you know, all those guys you mentioned on the offense, I know those guys are on the Cardinals roster, obviously, but when you lay them all out like that, oh
There's
my
a lot.
gosh. Yeah, this offense is just stacked beyond belief. Evan, on to you next.
Yo, I'm going to be boring alongside you, and I'm going to also say the Cardinals, they're just really good. I think what you also didn't really lay out as much is that their defense is amazing. This is a top 5 defense in the NFL. I think people kind of don't notice it because the Cardinals are usually seen as the kind of the air raid offensive team, kind of like a Texas Tech with Cliff Kingsbury. But the defense is really good. They're still missing J.J. Watt, who will likely come back in the playoffs. But as you mentioned, some great edge rushers in Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden. It's probably the best linebacker core in the league. Budda Baker's a top 3 safety in the league. And right now, they have all the gears going, even with a backup quarterback. Obviously, they dropped 1 game in November, but I mean, losing to Cam Newton, he was fired up that game. He wasn't going to lose that game. So right now, they have about 8 weapons on offense who all can do really great things, which I don't think you can say about any other team right now being that deep on offense. Chase Edmonds will probably come back during the year. James Conner, as much as I hate to say it, because I'm a Steelers fan, we let go of him, is the best goal line back in the league right now. They just have a lot of best ofs on their team, and it's probably the deepest team, depth-wise, just because of injuries, of any team in the NFC. I just don't see any team beating them in the playoffs.
You know, and you bring up a good point. The Cam Newton loss is understandable. They didn't just lose to Cam Newton. They lost to the whole city. They lost to all of Carolina. So very good points all around. Did a good job, not quite just overlapping the same thing with Adam, like that we got 1 for the offense, 1 for the defense. Jordan, don't say Cardinal special teams. What do you got?
I'm not going to say Cardinal special teams, although shout out Matt Prater. I'm surprised no one said the reigning NFC champion from last year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Have we forgotten that 12 is still under center? The golden boy is still playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't like it as much as the next guy. But I unfortunately have to say it. When it comes to playoffs and championships, you can't bet against Tom Brady. I can't bet against Tom Brady. Their division is very weak, so they're probably already got a playoff spot already. And right now, looking at the roster, the only real hole is probably their pass defense. They're very injured in the secondary. That may run into some problems with good quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers or Kyler Murray in the playoffs. But their run defense is as good as ever. Their offense is still humming, and they still got Tom Brady and Bruce Arians calling the shots. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, really the only tough opponent is probably Buffalo. So I would say that the Buccaneers are going to make it there pretty easy, and I think that they can make it through the playoffs pretty easy as well.
Absolutely. You know, the Buccaneers, like you said, they sound like platitudes, but they're all true about Tom Brady. They're the favorites until proven otherwise. Solid answer. That being said, Adam, you are getting the 3 for this one. It's not a slight against Tampa. Please don't win again. Jordan, you're getting the 2 on this one, and Evan, the 1. Well, we asked earlier about the stakes for each program that's in the playoff hunt going into the playoff, but now it's time to get down to brass tacks. By my count, there's still about 6 teams that have a shot at making the playoff. Now, that includes the current top 4, along with Oklahoma State and Notre Dame, despite, you know, Notre Dame not having a coach. In any case, the gap between number 2 Michigan and each team between them and the number 6 Fighting Irish feels too close to call. I really believe any of those teams between 2 and 6 could all beat each other. It'd be reasonable, and I wouldn't be shocked about any outcome that could come from that. There is one elephant in the room, though. And it's not Alabama. This is not Alabama. Rather, it's the consensus favorite and number 1 overall team all year long, Georgia. But we already know how good they are. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Georgia, they're the favorite. That's the answer to that question. But the question I'm asking you now is to convince me of which team outside of the Bulldogs is most likely to win it all. Evan, starting with you.
Now, I don't know how many people of you are aware, but where I was this Saturday. Well, this Saturday, I was at the big house. I was cheering on the Michigan Wolverines as they took on the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm a lifelong fan. 3 generations of my family. I had to break it going to Texas. But the Michigan Wolverines came into the big house and said, you know what, Buckeyes? You're done. It's over. They beat them handily. That was the #1 offense in the nation, and they led them to only 27 points, which really in a college football game isn't that much, especially when you're putting up in the 40s. This Michigan team looks really, really good. This is the best Michigan team we've seen of the 2000s, probably since they won a national championship. If there's any team that can match up against Georgia, it is Michigan. Georgia, amazing run defense, but Michigan has 2, honestly probably 3 running backs in Edwards, Corum, and obviously Hassan Haskins, who can run through any defense in the country. Obviously, Jordan Davis at Georgia is a huge run stuffer, but Haskins is running for 5 touchdowns. Corum is one of the fastest players on the field at all times. The Michigan defense with Aiden Hutchinson, he's probably the best player in the nation right now. I think Michigan, if there's any team that can match up well and get to the quarterbacks of Georgia, which has been a problem for most SEC teams this year, it is the Michigan Wolverines. Go Blue.
You know, overall, very good take. I think it's easy to think that Michigan's not legit. This year, they've absolutely proven otherwise. I mean, they went out there and, I mean, I don't want to say stomped Ohio State. It wasn't just a total burial. But they were in control the entire time. It's Ohio State.
It was fun.
Jordan, I bet it was. Jordan, we're on to you next.
Yeah, look, just as in the last question I said I couldn't bet against Tom Brady come championship time, you can't bet against Nick Saban come championship time. Come on, I know.
True,
as I said, I'm born a hater. I hate on success. I hate on Nick Saban. I hate on Alabama. But come on, it's going to be Alabama. Even if they lose to Georgia this coming week, which I think is very possible, even probable, I think that even if they are a 2-loss team, that the college football playoff will still let them in, because it is all capital letters, Alabama. They are ratings kings. They will bring in ratings, they'll bring in viewers, and they will bring in money. And at the end of the day, this is still a TV show. And I think that I think that if they make it there, they can still obviously beat Georgia too. I mean, they're Alabama. This is a far cry from the team last year that won it all, that people said was one of the greatest teams of all time with Mac Jones, you know. But I think that they still have Nick Saban as coach. They still have a whole bunch of 5-star talent. And Alabama just has that championship DNA that you really can't get anywhere else in college football.
So I absolutely don't agree. I think with a loss, it's going to take a lot of chaos for them to get in. I mean, really, so all the other contenders win, Bama loses.
If all the other contenders win, maybe not. But like, say Baylor can definitely win.
Right.
Cincinnati can definitely win.
Okay, that's a more reason take, and it does seem like every time Bama needs something to happen, the playoffs happen.
It always does. That's the reason A&M is still ranked. It's so they can have a quality loss.
When they came back against Auburn, I did think to myself, they're winning the national championship. It just feels classic Bama. So overall, solid answer. Another take where I hope you are wrong. Adam, we're going to round out this one with you.
Yeah, I think Georgia's beating Bama by double digits this weekend.
Yeah.
I think this Georgia team is far superior.
love it.
Notre Dame, they do have a head coach actually. They just promoted their defensive coordinator, but they haven't beaten a ranked team all year long. Or they beat Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's unranked now. Notre Dame's not getting in. Oklahoma State, they got good defense, but their offense is only averages the 58th most yards per game. I just don't think they have a strong enough offense to go out there and really challenge Georgia. Cincinnati, group of 5, I think it's great. They deserve to get in, but this is a team that struggled at times this year with inferior opposition. They went down to the wire against Navy. I don't think this is a Cincy team that could hang with Georgia. So that leaves Michigan, a Michigan team that just ran Ohio State off the field. They rushed for 300 yards on the Buckeyes. Aiden Hutchinson, 3 sacks against Ohio State. I think that's the formula for beating Georgia. They're going to have to control the clock and then come up with those stops on defense. But I think this Michigan team, they proved against Ohio State, they have the physical run game that it would take to win the national championship game. For once Jim Harbaugh's not tripping over himself, this Michigan team could be legit this year. I think this Michigan team is the best chance to beat Georgia, but I think it's going to take a lot. I think Georgia are going to be heavy favorites heading into these playoffs.
So for the fact that before you got to Michigan, you just sort of like did a takedown on all the other contenders really anyone could think of, and then with a strong defense on Michigan, you are going to be getting the 3 on this one, Evan the 2, and Jordan the 1, and that of course means that Adam has just secured the second spot in the finals.
Beat David.
The 1 versus the 2. How predictable, the 1 versus the 2.
It's a matchup of champions, of titans. Adam versus the hated David.
Yeah.
You won't want to miss it.
Collusion.
Do I smell foul play?
New York Giants and those answers, they're still in the hunt.
Man.
The Giants.
Still in the hunt.
The Eagles.
So there's a minute break. Evan,
All right.
All right, Matt, you ready? Welcome back to the College Crossfire Tournament of Champions, and we've hit the finals. This is going to decide all the marbles. This is the last round of the semester. Now, normally, I like to give a lot of encouragement to our panelists, let them know they're doing a good job. But these aren't just regular panelists. These are champs. So we've got a guest on. Come on in. We brought someone in. He's the saboteur. Now, the saboteur cannot win points for himself, but what the saboteur does is after one of the panelists answers, his job is to roast and take down their answer to the point where it makes me subtract points from the quality of their answer.
Intriguing.
It's funny we brought up haters earlier because the saboteur is the ultimate hater. What were you saying, Adam?
I would be that negative too if I was a Giants fan.
Well, Matt's a Giants fan.
I mean,
saboteur.
Saboteur's back. You guys are happy to see me again, bum.
It's the
Let's
saboteur.
go.
We don't know. Now, Washington Wizards star Kyle Kuzma made the news recently for wearing a sweater that could best be described as garish. Let's go look at it now.
Oh.
I know.
It's a look.
I'm sure he and perhaps his grandmother, if she knitted it for him, thought that he looked great. But the sporting world seems to disagree. I mean, just headline after headline, just roasting this guy. But it got us thinking. It feels like every week, every few weeks in professional sports, you see some athlete wearing some famous or infamous outfit, so memorable, the Cam Newtons of the world. So I ask you this. What athlete has the best drip? Anyone can jump in. The saboteur will respond.
I'll go off the top of my head, a little Houston connection. I'll go Russell Westbrook. I feel like he's wore some outlandish stuff. So I mean, at least if that's the first one that pops into my mind, it's definitely been memorable. So I say he's got a pretty unique style.
Fair enough. Russell Westbrook. What are your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, everybody can have their own unique style, but Westbrook is just so far out. Dude doesn't know what he wants to wear. He'll wear a hoodie one day. Next day he'll wear something completely crazy. Yeah. Westbrook, depending on who you ask, is in the drip master of the NBA.
Russell Westbrook.
Hey, he mixes it up.
Into getting better.
Fair enough. This is not a question.
Keeps people.
Yes, I gotta say, the saboteur's answer reminded me of some weird hats he's worn. I don't know, David.
Well, my opinion of drip and society's opinion of drip is dumb. Okay, people say Juju Smith has all the drip, where he'll no, he does not. I don't want to see his pink dyed hair, Steelers fan in the back over there. Yeah, so I don't know. I like a guy who goes to the game, settled, dialed in, wears his suit, nothing else, focuses on the game. And there's a lot of guys like that out in the NBA and in the NFL and everywhere. And so, like, all those guys have drip. I'm just going to be anti-drip for DK, Juju, Odell. Guys who have bigger personalities than their play on the field. That's a lack of drip. Drip, dialed in, suit, that's how you win a game.
Absolute takedown. Salvatore, what do we have?
My answer is everybody but those three.
I'm going to keep it simple. Those dudes, they have their style, they have their drip. David cannot be talking about drip wearing
I know.
the sheep sweater, the blazer, the jeans. Bro, what are those? he has no say on drip, man.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm dressing like the clowns of the game today.
I didn't know it was going to get so personal. Things get heated in the Tournament of Champions.
You look like a...
That said, Adam...
I came from a Christmas party. Chill.
Let's get the camera quick. That said, Adam is going to be getting the points for that answer. Moving on. Final question, unless there's a tie. Final question of the semester for all the marbles. On to Oklahoma, one last time.
Ew.
But this isn't just to dogpile on them any further. I mean, like, Lord knows they got enough problems, right? Come on. No, instead we'll be discussing their current interim head coach. You may have heard of him. He goes by the name of Bob Stoops, and he's already had a storied tenure at the school, winning 10 conference championships, and, of course, the 2000 BCS title. Probably the GOAT interim coach then, by the way. Best interim coach of all time. You know, and just it must be nice to call on the old heroes of your programs past when emergencies occur. The best Texas can do is get passive-aggressive comments from Mac Brown and like even Charlie Strong for some reason. Yeah. This got us thinking. If the situation ever arose, which Longhorn legend, whose legacy does not have to be associated with football program or even athletics, which Longhorn legend would you call on to keep the ship afloat if we needed an interim, if Texas needed an interim coach? Thoughts?
Well, my obvious answer would be Jamal Charles. I'm not going to go with him. He's a very humble man, a very nice guy, and I really like the guy.
answer, no answer. Got it.
But if I had to pick an interim head coach, I want somebody who has a personality. Sark does not have that, and I'm sorry, he needs to work on that, and I know he will. I know Beard can coach him up and make him feel better about his personality or something like that, but God, why are you like on the sideline kneeling? I think that the best guy to come in there is one of those pictures you showed, Matthew McConaughey. He doesn't need to have the football sense. He needs to go in there and just rally the troops. If we're down by 21, McConaughey's going to be in there. He's going to get his smooth, buttery talk voice. He's going to be like, guys, we're going to win this game. We're going to get in there. We're going to show them all we got, and we're going to come back. And that's what's going to happen, and we're going to win. Or he'll right the ship and just be like, okay, Bichon, just run the ball, and we'll win. So.
Well, then we're going to need an interim minister of culture, too.
Yeah,
Well,
I think Matt could be the interim minister of culture.
Matt's not here. Salvatore is here.
So, Matthew McConaughey, great dude. Appreciate everything he's done for the university. But as an interim coach, if he wants to be an interim coach, everyone wants him to be an interim coach, he needs to win the game. My dude, McConaughey, he likes to have fun. I don't know if he'd be able to be in the right mindset to coach a team to win a game.
Fair enough.
I feel like people would rather play with him.
McConaughey, you got called out here on Crossfire. Adam?
Can we have Chris Beard coach football? Like, honestly, like, you look at the atmosphere, look at what he has done for this basketball program. He has energized the student body around a basketball program. I mean, he didn't know what the word darty was a week ago, and his new favorite word now. I mean, he has created an atmosphere that has really, I think, boosted this basketball team. This is already a team with so much talent, and it's just that much more passion surrounding it. Texas needs that in football. We were talking about how weak the student section has been. Texas needs that energy around this football program. They have the talent. Yeah. They can recruit, but you can't go out and lose to Kansas. I mean, you know how empty that stadium was in the second half against Kansas?
I was there.
Too empty.
They need someone like Chris Beard to energize this program and get them back where they were in the early 2000s.
It's a twist on the Ted Lasso situation. Chris Beard, best thing going. You had me at Chris Beard. Adam, you're going to get the win of all wins. Adam is the champion of champions. And because of that, I don't care that we're over. Adam's going to FaceTime.
He's too nice to be. I like him.
No, it's an honor. I mean, second year in a row. But no, seriously, it's so great to be back in the studio too. Shout out to all these people behind the scenes. Shout out to these guys alongside me, Drew, first semester hosting. I mean, it's been so great to be back in the studio after a year and a half. And so props to Marcus and all them behind the scenes. This show is such a blast to be on, and so it's great to be back. TSTV Sports on air, and looking forward to have even some more fun in the spring.
Excellent. Adam, let's just fire this off really quick. Champs! Great job, Adam.
Hey, there we go.
And that is our conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you again next semester. Don't forget to follow TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Wake up to the 1-0 Sports Show this Friday. For all the panelists, everyone in studio, Master Control, and of course, the champ, Adam. I'm Drew Jacob. Have a wonderful evening.
You're welcome.
I love you, Jordan.
I love you too.